The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Sean Pratt, your friendly marketing manager here at Topia. Before we get started, just want to go over a few housekeeping items. You should see your GoToWebinar control panel on the top right of your screen. You can use that to ask any questions during the presentation using the questions section. You can also use that to flag if you're having any difficulty seeing or hearing the presentation. Our presentation today will take about 30 minutes, a brief slide presentation, a short demo, and then a little bit of time for Q&A. It will be recorded, and that recording will be made available to you, typically within 48 hours or so after the webinar. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce today our presenter, Rebecca Applewhite. She is one of our solutions consultants. Rebecca has over 12 years experience in the global mobility industry and has been through a few international moves herself, having lived and worked in London, Tokyo, and Melbourne. She's passionate about exploring the ways that technology can transform the relocation experience. Rebecca, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Sean. Welcome everyone to this webinar. Obviously, we're going to concentrate on the employee experience today. But before I dive into a demonstration of our employee-facing technology, which is called Topia Go, and how Topia Go can support your employees through one of the most momentous experiences of their lives, I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes setting the scene. So here's a quick agenda. Firstly, I'm going to look at why does employee experience really matter? We know it's a big ticket item for all HR, talent teams, and executives, but is that focus really justified? Next, assuming that we have made the case for the value of a strong employee experience, I'll go through the Topia approach to improving, supporting, and continuously enhancing the employee experience. Of course, the main event, I'll show you a short demonstration of our Topia Go hub. And finally, I will give you a sneak peek of some of the ideas and prototypes that we have for new designs of Topia Go. And these arise from our methods of continuous innovation, from listening to our customer feedback, from being out there in the marketplace, and from observing the ways that existing employees using our tools. And there'll be a short time for any questions as well. So, it's probably true to say that all of the experiences that an employee has with their employer, whether that is recruitment, the hiring process, onboarding, offboarding, or even the relocation experience, these all can directly affect how an employee feels about their organization and its promises. Some organizations might believe that the relocation experience is such a small part of their employees' journeys, but we all know that a poor relocation experience can translate all too easily and quickly into a failed relocation, or even an unsatisfied or an unengaged employee. And therefore, that has a direct impact on an organization's total productivity and retention statistics. And here are some statistics that help us. We know that employee experience is taken very seriously by many executives, and a survey from Deloitte shows here that 80% rated it as important or very important. But there's also a little bit of a gap because 59% of those same executives think that their organizations are not quite ready to address employee experience. Now, this could potentially represent an opportunity for organizations that are really ready and willing to invest and improve the employee experience. They could potentially have a head start over their competitors in the talent marketplace, and also have a direct impact on attraction, retention, and engagement scores. And by improving the employee experience, there is a direct correlation with employee engagement, which in turn directly affects the organization's bottom line. And that's supported here by a statistic from the Hay Group. So given these meaningful statistics on the importance and value of employee experience, We do hear out there when we're in our conversations, we hear 4 key trends coming up over and over again, which give an insight into the way that organizations are examining employee experience. Firstly, from the lens of trying to attract and retain top talent in what is frequently labeled a war. So organizations are aware that they need to differentiate themselves from their competitors. And that's both to their existing internal employees and their top talent internally, as well as their external potential employees. Secondly, the latest workforce generation brings some expectations for workforce flexibility, as well as the use of mobile tools and probably enhanced performance feedback and continuous feedback. So there's probably a neat synergy between today's employees, who are probably more open to moving around, and today's employers, who might now be expecting their employees to be more flexible in this way. But both sides would agree that the right kind of support for agility is fundamental to success. Thirdly, individuals are asking and requesting the same experience from their employers and their work lives that they receive from all of the consumer grade apps and platforms that they use in their daily lives. So that means things like really modern interfaces with good user design, self-service capabilities, tailor-made experiences, and so on. And finally, as we've seen, organizations are continuously recognizing that there is a strong link between employee experience, employee engagement, and productivity. And importantly, this recognition can help to build a business case internally for investing in upgrading and enhancing employee experience. So what do Topia think about when we're looking to support a better employee experience throughout a relocation specifically? So one of the most persistent trends that we hear in negative feedback regarding employee experience is the fragmentation and repetition that they face in their interactions with all of the various internal and external mobility stakeholders that are involved in a typical move. So one of our founding and core philosophies is in trying to unify what is a very fragmented experience for those employees. And then bearing in mind the values and the statistics that we touched on earlier, we also believe very strongly that integrated technology platforms can enable a seamless approach by bringing everything the employee needs to access or do or learn about into one modern consumer-grade platform. So the impact we're looking for is to simplify and streamline the experience, helping to drive employee engagement up and enhancing efficiencies for both employees and the teams around them. And according to the research we do, we are having a positive impact on customers who use our Topia Go hub. One small example, you may have heard the statistic that a typical relocating employee spends up to 130 hours of work time researching and planning their move. So using Topia Go returns at a minimum 10 hours to an employee, and that can stretch all the way up to 30 hours. So a little bit of a productivity gain per employee, but that can be quite significant across a large program. So talking about the expectations of today's employees and the focus on self-service, they do expect to be able to complete administrative items while they're on the go using mobile technology, because they can do this in their daily lives. We also have access to just an overwhelming and endless amount of data online. And one of Topia's key aims is to harness the power of that available data for relocation experiences in a modern and easy to consume format. And the way that we do this is we have a team of data scientists who source and aggregate data from millions of publicly available resources. And we combine this with crowdsourced data from our users, as well as observed behaviors and use cases to really revolutionize the employee and the HR experience. And many features that have arisen from our approach to data science have already been incorporated into the Topia Go hub, things such as data widgets, neighborhood planners, and I'll demonstrate a couple of those shortly. And we do have some more advanced data analytics capabilities that are continuously going to be improving and enhancing the experience as we go forward. Things such as aggregating data presented on websites, such as Craigslist advertisements for cities where this is a primary resource for finding accommodation, and crowdsourcing data from over 1 billion data points, including salary, spend, accommodation data, and so on. So we're anticipating that data will be used more and more in an integrated way into the employee experience into the future. So in summary, today's employee experience has got to be multifaceted, innovative yet reassuring, digital yet personal when you need it, and self-service when you don't. And our Topia Go hub tries to solve exactly those problems. So we've built an innovative, user-friendly interface that supports your employees and their families with both the softer and the more logistical aspects of their move. So without further ado, let's have a look at Topia Go. Just going to drag the screen up there. Okay, so I am a relocating employee and I have just logged onto my Topia Go dashboard. And what's being brought together for me here are the two key elements to support my move. There's logistical information and there is a lot of data, and it's been centralized for me in one place. So all of the logistical requirements are displayed as tasks. These could be tasks from my company, tasks from my vendors, tasks I create myself, or more general kind of information-based learning tasks. I've also got all of the location-specific information relating to my move in my city guides and neighborhood planners. And as well as that, I've got some additional practical functionality, including the ability to see my logistical requirements on a calendarized or timeline basis, and the ability to upload expenses for reimbursement. So let's dive into the task list. The task list was developed with typical user behavior at the top of the mind, as well as our approach to integrating as many different stakeholders and requirements into one place for the employee. So here I can see tasks that I need to do for my vendors, such as organizing a meeting with my tax provider. And here in our demo, we have a meeting with EY, one of the big four, but we can work with any tax provider and indeed any vendor. We are vendor agnostic in this way. As well as vendor-specific tasks, we can include company-specific tasks, so things that are more relating to onboarding or offboarding that are internal to the organization. We can also integrate links into the tasks. So this might be a link outside to Amex, or it could be a link to the organization's intranet site to complete a certain task. And we have location-specific information, so learning about the accommodation and the service provider that will be related to temporary accommodation for my move, for example, or learning about details about my specific new office in my new location. We might also have here specific registration requirements for a particular place, such as how do I go about getting a driver's license or a health card? And finally, I can add tasks of my own. So again, thinking about how to organize my tasks in one location. I've got the ability to, I find it very hard to talk and type, as you can probably tell. It's not the most ideal characteristic, but you get the idea. I can put my own tasks in the same place, and therefore I don't have to be looking at a number of different post-it notes or making separate Excel lists or Outlook reminders. I've got everything in one place. And as I go through and complete my tasks, the dashboard shows me my overall progress, hopefully providing me with a small sense of achievement and reducing that sense of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed as I journey through my relocation process. So now let's take a look at the way we aggregate information on the new location for these relocating employees. So typically, an employee who's about to relocate is going to be doing their own research, and it's going to be a lot of Googling. And the content that they come across from Google, it's fair to say that it's pretty varied, and it sort of can range wildly from either extreme, whether that is TripAdvisor reviews, tourist blogs, news articles, listicles, mummy blogs, for example, and it can be a little bit overwhelming and difficult to sort out what's really relevant for my experience. And I know that I experienced this personally myself when I moved to Japan, and I did a little bit of research and I fell into quite a rabbit hole about the difficulties for foreigners in Japan getting to grips with recycling and understanding the recycling instructions in Japan, and then getting into trouble with neighbors. And that caused me a little bit of anxiety, but I'm fair to say it's probably blew up into more of a proportion than it really needed to be. So that's sort of part of the problem that we aim to solve with our city guides. And these are curated guides written especially by our team of specialist writers, and they are aimed at employees who are relocating rather than backpackers, rather than business travelers, and rather than tourists. And the content's divided into easily digestible sections and formats. We have some nice videos, photos, we have some interactive widgets as well. And this is one of the ways that we're using our data analytics team to bring data into the Topia Go hub in an easily digestible way. There's a little bit of interactivity as well that I can start to play around with some of these widgets and see some comparison data about the costs of living in my host city. And feedback we've received from our customers indicates that this really helps an employee manage and set expectations without becoming too overwhelmed. And we know the contents in our Topia Go hubs are also used by families with older children and partners or spouses. So that's the data about the location. You can see at the top here we have a couple more tabs. We've also got a page about your organizational offices. So here we can fully configure this to your company information, whether that is information about how to get there on the first day, what I'm going to do on my first day, what do I need to bring, if I can't find it, who can I call, and then a little bit of information about settling into that office quickly. So this could be guides to local sports or interest groups, where to have lunch, values, maps, and so on. And again, we're aggregating typically data that's found across a variety of content for the employee. So usually they might need to find this in a number of different emails or attachments, manuals, or across the intranet. So we're trying to bring it into one place. And finally, we have our local services tab, and this is anticipating all of the practical questions that frequently occur when setting up in a new location. So an overview of key data. We've got an education and a schools and universities section. We've got information around transportation and travel. We have an overview of the healthcare system. And again, we have external links that can be embedded into the content. So all of the bold text is an external link. The idea being that we've got the overview in our Topia Go hub and the links to providers or sites to make more choices available for the employee. So as well as what do I have to do before I move, what do I have to do when I get to my new location, sorting out where I'm going to live is one of the biggest questions for a relocating employee. And this is where our neighbourhood planner aims to help manage some of the expectations for employees relocating. So what we've done here, we've got an interactive heat map, and we configure and pin your office locations onto the heat map here. You can see I'm flicking through a number of different New York-based example offices here. Let's pick the one on 5th Avenue. I can then customize a list of best matched neighborhoods for my unique situation. So I might be a keen cyclist, but one that doesn't want to spend too much time cycling. I think an hour is more than enough. And I might not have a very healthy rental budget, so I can start to see what neighborhoods might be ranked according to my requirements and our data analytics capability. So we're drawing in from our over 1 billion points of data sets here. So this is saving me some time and reducing the amount of anxious energy involved in choosing where to live. It doesn't detract or replace the personalized services that can be provided from a destination service provider, for example, but we think it makes those conversations and meetings much more valuable and tailored, because as an employee, I've managed to obtain some really useful information in advance of my move. In the closer look section, we just have a little overview of every key neighborhood as well, with some pictures and interesting facts about that area. Now, it's also as easy as possible for employees to upload their relocation expenses to the Topia Go platform. And what we've done here is stepped out the 3 stages of a typical upload. And I'm just going to add an example here. Let's hope I can type and talk a little bit better this time. So first, information about the expense. Next, the date that the expense occurred. And next, the ability to upload a receipt or an invoice. And I'll just grab something from my desktop there. So 3 easy steps for the employee to upload. And then we have a full expense review and management service available. So the Topia team will be able to pre-approve your policy limits and exception processes so that your employees' expenses are reimbursed promptly, efficiently, and according to your business logic. And our overview here provides both your employee and your team with oversights into the total costs and expenses of their relocation. And the interface shows the employee exactly what they've uploaded, the total spend, and what stage of the reimbursement these particular expenses are at. So in summary, I hope I've shown you that our Topia Go Hub not only saves the employee time and reduces frustration as they're navigating an already stressful experience, but it modernizes the experience of mobility and brings us in line with how organizations are aiming to deliver digital, streamlined and integrated support to your employees, ultimately driving up the levels of engagement amongst your relocating employees and returning productivity gains back to the business. Now, I did promise you a sneak peek of what we're thinking about for our future releases. So here is an illustration of one of the prototypes of a potential update to our neighborhood planner. And what we wanted to show you here was how we think about the way that users engage with our platform. So we, in this example, are looking to make that neighborhood planner a lot cleaner with the key widgets popping out at the user and the heat map of the neighborhoods a lot fresher and quicker to see the key information that you need. And I think on the next slide we have, sorry, slightly blurry, but this is an illustration again and a prototype of the way we've thought about updating the task and checklist information. So we're responding here to feedback from our users that tasks need to be prioritized visually. So key dates need to be made a lot more prominent, and the really urgent tasks that the employee has to do need to really be made to pop. So this is a prototype in our design from our design team, and we are constantly innovating and updating our user experience in line with customer feedback, as well as as I mentioned before, our team of data scientists and user experience experts. Okay, so we are approaching the end of the half hour. So with that, I will pause and ask Sean whether there have been any questions.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. And just a reminder to folks that you can use the questions section in your GoToWebinar control panel to submit any questions that you have. We did get a few questions that came in, Rebecca, so I'll go ahead and get started with those for you. In the city guides, you showed safety ratings. Can you turn off these types of features for an employee?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Yes, any of those widgets can be turned off or on in sort of any format that you like. We sometimes get questions about the safety one. Sometimes we get questions about the cost of living one as well. Some organizations don't want to give too much information through the Go Hub on cost of living. So yes, they can be configured according to your requirements and your understanding of your employees' culture and needs.
Great. A follow-up question, I guess, to that one, Rebecca, is how often is the information updated?
Another good question. So, I mean, that really depends on the type of data. So we're bringing in sort of various different types of content onto the Topia Go Hub. So the first one is the data analytics. So the data that's represented in the widgets and in the neighborhood planners, for example. So those data points are live and immediate. They're dragging from live data continuously. We also have our team of data scientists constantly evaluating our employee hub. Some of the data, some of the more written content is updated on a schedule, and that's typically quarterly or every 6 months. And the curated information, for example, the city guide information, that gets reviewed regularly by our team of writers on a continuous cycle.
Thanks for that clarity, Rebecca. A follow-up question is, can you rebrand the portal at all so that it looks a bit more like our organization?
Now, we actually have decided that we don't recommend that. So no, we don't brand the Topia Go Hub to look like your organization. And the reason we do that is we want to, we strongly believe in providing a consistent experience for your employees. So there is configurable content. So for example, the office pages that I showed you there can be configured to match your office needs and your organizational needs, and we can put logos and links to intranet in there. But we sort of believe that we are making great progress in our aim of a modern and consistent user experience. So that's why we don't brand the Topia Go Hub in an organizational's brand colors.
Great, thanks for clarifying that. A question that's come in is, when you click on a hyperlink from within Topia Go, is it accessible via single sign-on, or do you just link out to a website?
We have the capability to do either. So it depends, I guess, where you're going with the links. The ones that I demonstrated are just going straight to external links, and that wasn't a single sign-on, but we do have the capability to enable single sign-on as well.
Great, thanks. And I guess a final question, since we're almost at the bottom of the hour here, are you integrated with other RMCs?
Yes, we do. We have integrations with a number of different RMCs for our HR and corporate users. And we're currently working on expanding those into deeper and broader integrations into the Topia Go Hub for employees. And that's going to be able to unlock even more functionality and features in an integrated way for relocating employees.
Great. And it looks like with that, we're right at the bottom of the hour and we're out of questions. So, Rebecca, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to present to us today. And of course, thank all of the attendees for joining us. You can always see the latest and upcoming webinars at topia.com/events. We look forward to seeing you soon, and thanks again.
Thank you.